I'm delighted to be joined today by the Director of the LA Department of Public Health, Dr. Barbara Ferrer. So nice to have you here.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Maria.
Just even doing my research, it seemed incredibly overwhelming to think about what the Department of Public Health is responsible for. But in general, obviously, you know, we'll get to the enormous issue with the pandemic, but it is so much more than just that. What are the things that you focus on?
There's 4,500 employees, there's almost a $2 billion budget, and we have a huge mandate to make sure that everybody has the resources and opportunities they're going to need to be as healthy as possible. We're really focused on sort of an equity agenda. You know, we all used to think it was about going to the doctor, and that's an important component, don't get me wrong. But so much of what determines our health and our well-being is really rooted in the conditions in which we live. You know, a good example is, 25 years ago, the Public Health Department may have done a huge campaign telling people how important it was to eat healthy. Well, we know that, yes, it's super important for us all to eat healthy, but your ability to eat healthy depends on your access to affordable, healthy foods. So you're going to see a Department of Public Health like ours making sure you have access to affordable, healthy foods, trying to get rid of what we call those food deserts. We're going to worry about climate change. We've got to get clean air. We need clean water. We got to get the lead out of our soil. So you'll see our Public Health Department really working on all fronts. We want the conditions where you work, where you live, where you play, where you pray, to all really contribute to your overall well-being and to contribute to what we call community health.
And it was those issues that actually drew you to the position in the first place.
Yes, I mean, I can't imagine being anywhere else now than in LA County. I've so benefited from the richness of the expertise that lives in our communities, among our residents, among our community-based organizations, our faith-based organizations. You know, the truth is, when you think about a public health infrastructure, many people just say, oh, that's your health department, your public health department. No, that's all of those organizations and people that came together, especially during a pandemic, during COVID. We witnessed this firsthand, that make it possible for us to get the kind of information we need. To have trusted messengers, to have over 2,000 vaccination sites in the county within months of getting vaccines. That's because of all of those partnerships with all of those organizations.
The issue still exists. So where are we and how are we? I mean, are people still dying from COVID?
Black and brown people still tend to have higher rates of cases, hard to measure now, but higher rates of hospitalizations and higher rates of death than everybody else. We also see that people who live in communities that have higher rates of poverty, same thing. Now we're averaging about 1.5 deaths a day. I mean, you all remember when I reported 300 deaths in a day, 400 deaths in a day. So things are so much better. One thing we learned is we have to protect workers. If there's one place where I feel like we missed at the beginning, it was understanding the disproportionality that was going to play out amongst workers, especially our essential workers, who were never going to go home, who couldn't really distance, who worked in crowded conditions. So for me, the work ahead is, let's improve ventilation. We know what a difference good ventilation is going to make, not just for COVID, for other health issues,
Sure.
Other respiratory viruses.
What was your core value that you maintained?
Yeah, I think it's the most important question about who I am and how I can do this work. Because particularly during a pandemic, it wasn't just that there were lots of different thoughts and ideas and perspectives. It was also that information changed all of the time. And we had to make some hard decisions. So my core values did come into play. You know, I believe that we're all here to take care of each other, and you heard that from me over and over again. But in taking care of each other, my job is to make sure that we're paying attention to those people who are most vulnerable, for whatever reason. It could be they don't have enough income. It could be they live in a community that's isolated and they don't have good access to resources. In the case of COVID, it could be that you're just old or you have some serious underlying health conditions. I always had to remember, how will this decision impact people who are the most vulnerable for having a bad outcome if they get infected with COVID? The second value that for me really plays an important role always is transparency. I don't want people to second guess about why we made a decision or what that decision is or what we think the impact of that decision is. And I want you to have the same access to information that I do. So every data point that we used to help inform decisions, we tried to put up on the website. And we tried to put it up in a way that would allow everybody to be able to see it and understand it. But our information's powerful. And most of the information I have doesn't belong to us at the health department. It belongs to all of you. It belongs to everybody who lives here, who works here, because that's the information we're collecting. And I want to make sure that people could see that information as well, so you could understand what were some of the data points that might be driving our decisions.
How are you? I mean, because not only have you had to deal with this, you've had to answer to it, you've got an enormous amount of attention on you, and you personally, you professionally, you at large, in an incredibly tense, at sometimes, fraught with peril experience. But in front of me now, you're relaxed, you're gracious, you're optimistic. But this has got to have been really rough.
I mean, it was rough for everybody, let's be honest.
Oh, but you were in the front line. You were standing there.
I was in the front line, but I never was alone. So, I really want to emphasize that. There were many lonely points, but I was not alone. I have an amazing team. I have an amazing family. I had amazing support from the vast majority of people who live and work in LA County. I know there was a lot of attention paid to, sort of people who may have been attacking me or may have been, questioning us, may have been disrespectful at times, and at times threatening. But that was not what was happening most of the time. And so I don't really want to give it a lot of weight.
Got it.
Because I think the harder issues for me and for my team were that we lost so many people. And that took a lot of coping skills. If you ask of what hit me the hardest, it was knowing how many people died.
Thank you for your courage, and thank you for your candor and all of these things. Beyond obviously the pandemic and COVID and all the resources that are available, you also ask something of the community.
So yes, there's some things we ask people to get involved in. If you think you've experienced food poisoning, please report to us. If you've gone somewhere where you think the health conditions are poor, please report to us. I think the other kind of ask that we have is get involved with us as well. So right now we have a hands-only CPR campaign going on. This allows every single person who lives in LA County to very easily learn the life-saving skill of hands-only CPR. And it's easy to do, it's easy to learn, it takes about 10 minutes. We have sites all over the county where we'll train you. We'd love to have at least 500,000 people trained by the end of this year. I think we already have about 370,000 people trained. But everyone can get involved in that.
And if people want to get information, what is the site?
So people can go to publichealth.lacounty.gov.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ferrer.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.